Hey everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. It's great to have you here again, and I hope you're ready to build something interesting and pretty cool. So in this tutorial we're going to create a sign-up form with HTML, CSS and JavaScript from scratch. Before we dive into writing the code, let's go ahead and describe the project. So as you can see, we have here a sign-up form which includes a couple of different input fields. We have here inputs for first name, last name, email and passwords. Also below you can see a submit button with little hover effect. Behind this sign up form you can see nice and cool full screen background image. The form is full of nice and cool effects and animations, so I'll describe them step by step. The first thing that I'm going to show you is the functionality of the form heading. By default we see here text sign up, but once we focus the input fields, then the text content of the form heading will change, and we will get here the text contents of the placeholders of the inputs. So again, the form heading is changing dynamically once we focus on different input fields. The next thing that I'm going to show you is the letters displaying behind the form while we type something into the input fields. As you see, the characters are displaying nicely behind the form. By default, we have here 3 dots, and then once we start to type, the last typed character will be displayed behind the form. If we type into the password inputs, then we will get here the stars, the asterisks. It happens because by default the password is locked. You can see here the lock icons. If we click them, then the passwords will unlock, and we will be able to see what we are typing into the input fields, and also the proper characters will be displayed behind the form. So we are able to lock and unlock the passwords, and the letter effects behind the form will work accordingly. Alright, so that's not everything. We have here one more animation. If we reload the page, then we'll get this nice and cool effect. The form is hidden by default. Once the page is reloaded, the position of the background image changes, and once we reach the top edge, the form is displayed with a fade effect. Okay. So that's it about the effects and animations and also the functionality of our project. I would like to note that the project is responsive to different screen sizes and devices. If I inspect the page, switch to the responsive mode, and then check the project on different screen sizes and devices, you will see that it is responsive and looks pretty nice on every screen size and device. Alright, so before we jump right into building the project, please don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to our channel and click the bell to get notified on upcoming tutorials. Now let's get started. So I have created a new folder on the desktop called form, in which I have another folder for images. We have here just one background image. Let's go ahead and open this folder in VS Code. And then we have to create our working files. We need 3 files. The first one is going to be index.html. Then I'm going to create a file for CSS. It's going to be style.css. And finally we need app.js. Alright, so let's go ahead and open index.html file and create the basic HTML document. For that I'm going to use Emmet. We have to place here an exclamation mark and then hit tab or enter. So here we go, we have here the basic HTML tags. So first of all I'm going to change the title, it's going to be form. Then I'm going to link the CSS and JavaScript files. Let's open link tag. We have to specify here the path of the file. In this case we just need to indicate the name of the file, style.css. As for the JavaScript, I'm going to open script tag. And then in the source attribute I'm going to specify the name of the file, app.js, and besides that I'm going to add here an attribute called defer. So the defer attribute instructs the browser on how to handle the JavaScript file. So let me explain the behavior of this attribute. The browser downloads the script app.js in parallel with parsing the HTML content. The browser waits for the HTML parsing to finish before executing the script. So that's the way how defer attribute works. Alright, so now I'm going to run the project live in the browser. For that I'm going to use one of the VS Code packages called live server. You have to click here, open with live server, or you can just click here, go live. So as you can see, the project is live in the browser. I'm going to place the editor and the browser side by side to make our working process more convenient. After that, I'm going to bring in one more link. Throughout this project, we're going to use Font Awesome icons. So I'm going to grab Font Awesome CDN. We need to visit this website and copy the first link from here. Then I'm going to open link tag and paste the CDN inside the href attribute. All right, so I think we are ready to start to create the HTML markup. I'm going to open div tag, which is going to be the container. Then inside the container, I'm going to open form tag with the class name form. Let's get rid of action attribute. So inside the form, I'm going to insert span element, and it's going to be 3 dots. Next, I'm going to open another span tag. It's going to be form heading. And as the value, I'm going to insert here sign up. After that, I'm going to open input tag, which is going to be input for the first name. So we need here placeholder attribute with the text first name. And also I'm going to add here class attribute, and it's going to be form input. So let's go ahead and duplicate this input field twice and then make here some changes. So the second input is going to be for last name. We need here last name. The type is going to be text, and then we need input for email. Let's change the type, it's going to be email. Then I'm going to change the placeholder attribute. We need here email. After that, I'm going to open div tag, and it's going to be form group. Inside the div tag, I'm going to open input, and it's going to be password. Next, we need to add here placeholder attribute. It's going to be password. Then I'm going to add here class attribute with the value form input. And then after input element, I'm going to create font awesome icon. We need I element with the classes FA solid, FA block. Let's go ahead and duplicate div element. I mean form group. We need second form group for the password confirmation. So the type of the input field is going to be password. Then we need placeholder with the text confirm password. Then the class name is going to be form input. As for the I element, we need FA lock. Alright, so that's it about the second form group. Next we need to create the submit button. So we need button. The type is going to be submit. Then we need class. It's going to be form btn. And then as the text, I'm going to insert here register. Okay, so I think that's it about the HTML markup. Let's check the browser. So we have here all the elements, and now we have to start to style those elements. So let's go ahead and open style.css file. I'm going to move this file on the right side. First of all, I'm going to create some default styles. Let's select every element using an asterisk, and then set margin and padding for every element to 0. Then I'm going to define the font family. It's going to be Sequoia UI. Actually, if you don't have this font, you can download it for free and install, or you can use any other font you like. It's up to you. Next, I'm going to define the font size of the HTML element. So throughout this project, I'm going to use rem as a measurement unit. By default, right now, 1 rem is equal to 16 pixels because the font size of the HTML element is equal to 16 pixels. I want to convert 1 rem into 10 pixels. And for that we have to decrease the font size of the HTML element. We have to make it 62.5%. In this case, 1 rem will be equal to 10 pixels. And as you can see, the size of all the elements decreased and they became smaller. Alright, after that, let's go ahead and customize the container. Let's select this element. First of all, I'm going to define the height. It's going to be 100 viewport height. It means that the container will take up 100% of the height of the viewport. After that, I'm going to place the content in the center. Actually, in order to place the elements in the center, we can use a couple of different ways. In this case, I'm going to use CSS grid. We have to insert here display grid. And then in order to place the content in the center, we need to add here place items center. So, as you can see, the content is placed in the center of the page. After that, I'm going to change the background of the container. So we need to define URL. It's going to be images. And we have to select this image here. Then I'm going to define the position of the background image. It's going to be top. And also we need no repeat. Finally, I'm going to add here background size with value cover. Okay, so we have here this nice and cool background image. After that, I'm going to customize the form. So let's go ahead and select form elements with the class name form. I'm going to use flexbox in order to align the content of the form. So let's use display flex. Then we have to align the flex items inside the form element vertically in a column. Therefore, we have to change the direction of the flex, and it's going to be column. So as you can see, the elements are placed vertically in a column. Next, we need some space between the elements, the flex items. In order to create some space, we can use property called row gap. So once the direction is changed and we have column here, then in order to create the space between the flex items, we have to use row gap. If we have not changed the direction, then we would have used here column gap instead of row gap. But in this case, we need row gap. So the gap is going to be 2 rem. And if we check the browser, you will find here that we have space between the flex items. Okay, so after that, I'm going to set border to 0.1 rem, solid, and the color is going to be white. Also, I'm going to make the form rounded. For that, we have to use border radius. It's going to be 1 rem. Let's check the browser. So as you can see, we have here rounded border for the form. Next, I'm going to create some space inside the form element. For that, I'm going to use padding. So the padding is going to be 10 rem at the top side, then 5 rem on the right side, 8 rem at the bottom side, and 5 rem on the left side. So we have space inside the element. After that, I'm going to change the background color of the form. Let's set background to RGBA. I'm going to use white color. We need 255 3 times. And then I'm going to change the opacity. It's going to be 0.1. So as you can see, the color of the form changed. After that, I'm going to take care of the form heading. So let's go ahead and select form heading. First of all, I'm going to define the position for the form heading. It's going to be absolute. Then in order to align the heading according to the parent element, which is form, we have to define position for the form as relative. Now, I'm going to define top position. It's going to be 0. Let's check the browser. So as you can see, the position of the form heading is changed. After that, I'm going to increase the font size. Let's set it to 3 rem. Next, I'm going to change the color. Let's make it white. Also, I'm going to decrease the font weight. Let's set it to 200. And then we need padding for the heading. Let's make it 0.5 rem. at the top and bottom sides and 1 rem on the left and right sides. Alright, so the heading looks pretty nice. Next we have to take care of the input fields. So let's go ahead and select form input. First of all, I'm going to define width and height. The width is going to be 35 rem, and then the height is going to be 2 rem. Also, let's create some space inside the input fields using padding. Let's set it to 1 rem on all 4 sides. Let's check the browser. So as you can see, these tiles are applied to the input fields. They look better. Next, I'm going to set the background color to transparent. Also, we need border, and it's going to be 0.1 rem, solid, and the color will be white. Next, I'm going to get rid of default outline. Let's set it to none, and then check the browser. So now the input fields look nice. After that, I'm going to take care of the font. Let's set font size to 1.6 rem. Then change the color. It's going to be white. Actually, I'm going to add here font weight. Let's set it to 300. Next, I'm going to add border radius to the input field. Let's make it 0.5 rem. And finally, I'm going to add here letter spacing. Let's create some space between the letters and make it 0.1 rem. Okay, so now the forms look pretty nice. Next, I'm going to change the color of the placeholder attribute. Let's go ahead and select form input, followed by the placeholder pseudo class. Actually, pseudo element, not the class. Let's set color to white. Alright, so that's it about the input fields. Next, I'm going to take care of the button, the submit button. So let's go ahead and select form btn. I'm going to set padding to 1 rem. Then let's go ahead and change the border. It's going to be 0.1 rem, solid, and the color is going to be white. Next, I'm going to change the background color. Let's use RGBA color to 10105, then 30, and the opacity is going to be 0.451. Okay, so the background color of the button is changed. After that, I'm going to customize the font. So let's set font size to 1.6 rem. Then the font weight is going to be 400. Also, I'm going to create some space between the letters. Let's set it to 0.1 rem. Then change the color, make it white. Also, I'm going to make the text uppercase. And then set cursor to pointer. Let's check the button. Okay, so I think it looks pretty nice. Next, I'm going to create a little hover effect. Once we hover over the button, we should change the background color. So I'm going to select form btn, followed by the hover. Let's change the background color. I'm going to use RGBA value. It's going to be 236109, then 19. As for the opacity, I'm going to set it to 0.451. Also, we need here transition for smoother effect. Let's set transition to background color, and the duration is going to be 0.2 seconds. All right. So that's it about the button. Next, I'm going to take care of the font awesome icons. Those 2 icons for the password and password confirmation. So let's go ahead and select form group I. First of all, I'm going to define the position of the icon. Let's set position to absolute. Then we need position relative for the parent element, which is form group. So we need to select form group and set position to relative. Then go back to the icon. I'm going to set top position to 50%. We need to center the icons vertically. Therefore, I'm going to add here transform, translate Y with the value minus 50%. So in this case, the icon will be centered vertically. Next, I'm going to define the right position. Let's add here right position, and I'm going to set it to 3 rem. Okay, so the icons are positioned. Next, I'm going to customize them. So let's go ahead and change the color. It's going to be white. Also change the font size. I'm going to make it 1.4 rem. And finally, set cursor to pointer. Okay, so the icons look pretty nice. All right, after that, I'm going to customize the span elements. I mean those 3 dots. Actually, I'm going to add here class name, letter. So this span element will include the letters. Let's take a look at the finished project. So by default, as you can see, we have here 3 dots, but once we set the type, then we'll get here the letters. So this span element will include those letters. I'm going to customize this element. Let's select it here. We need letter. Then I'm going to set position to absolute. The top position is going to be 50%. Then we need left position. It's going to be 50%. Next, I'm going to center the elements perfectly. For that, I'm going to use transform with translate function. And we have to pass here minus 50% and again minus 50% for both directions. I mean X and Y directions. After that, I'm going to increase the font size. Let's set it to 50 rem. Then the font weight is going to be bolder. Also, we need to make the letters uppercase. Let's set text transform to uppercase. Change the color, make it chocolate. Let's check the results. So we have here the dots. Next, I'm going to make them blurry. For that, I'm going to use filter and the blur function with the value 2 rem. And also, I'm going to use here user select with value none. So the CSS property, user select, is used to control whether the user can select the text within an element. When you set user select to none, it prevents the user from selecting any text within the particular element and its children. So we are not able to select the dots. Okay, so I'm going to place the dots behind the form. For that, I'm going to use the index property. Let's set it to -1. Now they are hidden and they are no longer visible. In order to fix that problem, I'm going to add to the form the property called isolation, and the value is going to be isolate. So now the dots should be visible, and yes, they are visible and they are placed behind the form element. So the isolation property is used to establish a new stacking context for the element it's applied to. When you set isolation to isolate, it isolates the element's content from its parent and sibling elements in terms of stacking order. In other words, it means that the element's content will be rendered as if it were in a separate layer, independent of its surrounding elements. This can be useful for managing the stacking order of elements, particularly in complex layouts or when dealing with elements that use overlapping or positioning. Alright, so actually that's it about the CSS for now. All the elements look pretty nice, and now we have to write some JavaScript. Let's open app.js file, and I'm going to create a variable. It's going to be inputs. I'm going to select all the inputs. So let's go ahead and use document.query selector all method. Let's specify here the class name form input. Then I'm going to duplicate this line of code. The second variable is going to be letter, and I'm going to select letter. Also, we need here query selector without all. So now I'm going to iterate over inputs using for each method, and we have to add an event listener to each input with the event input. So as I said, we need to use for each method. We need here inputs dot for each. Then I'm going to insert here a callback function, which will take one parameter, and it's going to be input, the current input in the loop. So as I said, we have to add an event listener to the input. Let's use add event listener method, and as the event I'm going to use input. So the input event is triggered when the user types something into the input field. Let's add here a callback function, and I'm going to insert here an event object. It represents the event object. I mean, it contains information about the event that occurred. So now the first thing that I'm going to do is to hide the letter, I mean the dots in this case. So in order to hide the letter, let's use letter followed by the style property, and then we need opacity. It should be equal to 0. After that, we have to define the text content of the letter. I mean, we have to grab the text content of the typed letters here. So once we type, we need to grab the last letter, and we have to display it back behind the input like we have it in the finished version. So we need to do this thing for those 3 input fields except the password and password confirmation. In the case of the password, we need to display the stars if the password is locked, and if it is unlocked, then we have to display the characters, I mean the letters. So first of all, let's take care of those 3 input fields. For that, we need to use if statements. We need if statement in order to exclude the password and password confirmation. So we need here the following condition: if input type not equals to password, then I'm going to use set timeout function. I'm going to display the letters after some amount of time. So the set timeout function takes 2 parameters. The first one is the callback function. As for the second one, it is an amount of time. In this case, let's use 100 milliseconds. So inside the set timeout function, we have to set the text content of the letter element to the last character entered by the user, and also we have to set the opacity of the letter element back to 1. So we need here letter dot text content, and it should be equal to e.target. It refers to the target element that triggered the event. In this case, it's the input element that the event listener is attached to. So after e.target, we need value dot split, and we have to pass here empty string. So this method splits the string, I mean the value of the input field, into an array of individual characters. The empty string passed as an argument to split means that each character of the string will become a separate element in the resulting array. So again, split method in this case splits the string into an array of individual characters. Now we have to use another method, and it's called slice. And actually we need here slice. And as the argument, I'm going to insert here -1. So the slice method extracts a portion of an array. the argument -1 specifies that it should start at the last element of the array and extract it. Since it's only extracting one element, it effectively selects the last character of the input value. So slice method selects the last character from the array, which is returned by the split method. Alright, so after that, I'm going to show back the letter. So we need letter dot style dot opacity equal to 1. Okay, so now this code should work. Let's start typing here. As you can see, we are getting the letters from the input field. So everything works fine. Now if we type in the password input field, then we won't get here any characters. So now we need else statement in which we have to change the text content of the letter and make it asterisk. I mean, if we take a look at the finished project and start to type in the password input field, we'll get here the star, I mean the asterisk. So if the type of the input is equal to password, then we need here letter dot text content equal to an asterisk. And also we need to display back the letter. So we need letter dot style dot opacity equal to 1. Actually, we need to pass this code in the set timeout function like we did it in the if statement. So we need here set timeout, then a callback function, and I'm going to pass here the code. Also, we need here the amount of time. It's going to be 100 milliseconds. Okay, let's go to the browser and check the results. Now, as you can see, we're getting here the asterisk in both password input fields. Okay, so everything works fine. I'm going to add a little smooth effect to the letter. So I'm going to add transition. Let's use opacity with the duration point 1 second. Alright, so now we have to take care of the password inputs, I mean the font awesome icons. Once we click them, we have to unlock the password input fields. So let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to create new variable. It's going to be locks. Let's select the I elements. I'm going to use query selector all method. And I'm going to specify here the class name form group followed by the I elements. Now I'm going to iterate over the locks, and then we have to add a click event to the lock. So once we click the lock, then we have to change the font awesome icon. I mean, we have to unlock it. So let's go ahead and insert here locks. Then we need for each method with a callback function. As the parameter, I'm going to insert here lock. Then, as I said, we have to add an event listener to the lock with click event. And then we need a callback function. So once we click the lock, then we have to open it. And then on the next click, we have to lock it back. So I'm going to use toggle method. We need here lock.classList.toggle. And then we have to insert here class name fa lock open. After that, we need to check if the lock contains the class name fa lock open. If it does, then we have to change the type of the input field and make it text. And if it doesn't contain fa lock open, it means that it is locked, and therefore we have to make the input type password. So we need here lock.classList.contains this method checks if the element contains the class. So we need here class name, fa, lock open. So if the element contains this class name, then we need ternary operator, and we have to change the type of the input field and make it text. So we need here lock, and then we have to access to the previous element sibling. I mean, we have to access to the input field. Then we need type, property, and we have to make it text. If the lock does not contain fa lock open, then it means that it is locked, and we have to insert here this code, but with different type, and it's going to be password. Okay, let's go to the browser and check the result. So by default, the input fields are locked. Now if we click, then they will open. And if I type here, the characters will be visible. Also, behind the input field, we see the characters that we are typing. Okay, so everything works fine. Let's check the second input field as well. Now it is locked. Once we open it, then we will be able to see the characters. Okay, after that, I'm going to take care of the form heading. So as you see, once we focus the input fields, then the form heading is changing. And once we remove the focus, then we'll get here sign up. Let's go ahead and make this thing work. So I'm going to select form heading. Let's use again query selector method. I'm going to specify here the class name. It's going to be form heading. Next, I'm going to insert inside the for each method the following. We need to add an event listener to the input element with the event focus. So once we focus the input field, then we have to hide the form heading. And after that, we have to grab the text content of the placeholder and replace the text content of the form heading. So as I said, we have to add an event listener to the input field. The event is going to be focus. Let's add here callback function. We need to use again event objects. So as I said, the first thing that we have to do is to hide the form heading. So we need here form heading, then style, then opacity, and it's going to be 0. After that, I'm going to use again set timeout function. I'm going to change the text content with some timeout. So I'm going to add here a callback function. As for the amount of timeout, it's going to be 200 milliseconds. So as I said, we have to grab the text content of the placeholder and we have to replace the text content of the form heading. So we need here form heading followed by the text content. Then we need e.target. So we are accessing here the input field, and then we have to access the placeholder. After that, we have to display back the form heading. So let's grab this line of code and make the opacity 1. Let's go to the browser. Now, once we focus, then the text content of the form heading will change and it will grab the text content of the placeholder. Alright, so I think we need a little transition with this effect. Let's find form heading and add here transition. It's going to be opacity with the duration 0.2 seconds. So now we have much nicer effect. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to change the form heading once we remove the focus from the input fields. once we click anywhere outside the input field, then we have to get back here, sign up. So let's go to the VS Code. So I'm going to attach an event listener to the input with the event called blur. The blur event occurs when an element loses focus. So let's add here input.add event listener. And as I said, we need to use event called blur. Then we need a callback function. So again, the blur event occurs when an element loses focus. In other words, it triggers when the user moves focus away from an interactive element. In our case, it is an input field. So now we need to hide again the form heading. Let's add here style with opacity and make it 0. Then again, I'm going to use set timeout function. Actually, let's grab this code from here and insert it here. So the amount of time will be the same. The text content of the form heading should be sign up. And we need here opacity 1 because we have to display back the form heading. All right, let's go to the browser. So once we focus, then the form heading will change. And once we remove the focus or click anywhere outside of the input field, then we will get back here, sign up. All right, so I think everything looks pretty nice. Next, I'm going to take care of the background image. I mean, once we reload the page, then we will get this nice and cool effect. The form is hidden by default. Then the background is moving. I mean, the position of the background is changing and the sign up form is appearing. So let's go to the VS Code and create this effect. I'm going to create CSS keyframes. We need to use CSS animations. So let's create CSS keyframes. The name is going to be bganim. So we will have here 3 different steps. At 0% at starting point, we need opacity to be 0.2. Then we need background position, and the position of the background is going to be bottom. Then the next step is going to be 30%. At 30%, let's grab those 2 lines. The opacity is going to be 1. As for the background position, it's going to be bottom. And then we need 100%. I mean the endpoint of the animation. At 100%, the opacity is going to be 1. As for the background position, it's going to be top. Alright, so once the keyframes are ready, let's add the animation to the container. We need bganim. Then the duration is going to be 1.5 seconds. And also I'm going to use here value forwards. Actually, we need here forwards. So the forwards value for the animation property specifies that the element should retain the styles defined in the last keyframe after the animation completes. So it should retain those styles here. Let's go to the browser and reload the page. So as you can see, the background, I mean the position of the background is changing. Now we need to hide the form and appear it once we move up. I mean once the position of the background becomes top. So I'm going to create new CSS keyframes for the form. We need form. So let's create CSS keyframes, and the name is going to be form animation. We're going to have here just 2 steps. 0%, the starting point. It's going to be opacity 0, and then at 100%, at the endpoint of the animation, we need opacity 1. And then I'm going to use animation property. I'm going to insert here the name of the animation is going to be form anim. Then we need duration 2 seconds. Also, I'm going to add here little delay time. So the delay time is going to be 1.2 seconds. And again, let's use forwards. I'm going to add to the form opacity 0 by default. It should be hidden by default. And also I'm going to change the color of the body element. Let's set body, let's set color, background color for the body element to FF9100. So now once we reload, then we will get this nice and cool effect. The form is hidden and it appears after some time once the background position becomes top. Alright, so everything looks and works perfectly. The only thing that we have to do is to make our project responsive to different screen sizes and devices. Let's inspect the page and switch to the responsive mode. Let's go ahead and check the project for different screens. I have here different screen sizes for desktop screens. Then we have tablets and mobiles. So let's check all of those breakpoints. As you can see, for desktop screens, the project looks pretty nice. Next we have tablet. It looks nice. And now we have here mobiles. So as you can see, we need to make some changes for mobile screen sizes. I'm going to create CSS media query. Let's specify max width as 550 pixels. I'm going to decrease the font size of the HTML elements. Let's set it to 50%. It will decrease the sizes of all the elements. So now, as you can see, the project looks good on mobile device. Let's check other screen sizes. Actually, we need to make some change here. It is the smallest screen size for the mobile phone. So I'm going to create new CSS media query. Let's set max width to 400 pixels and decrease the font size of the HTML elements. Make it 45% and check the result. So now everything looks good. Alright, so that's it. We have finished working on our project. Hopefully you enjoyed this project and you learned some new stuff. I like this project very much because I think that it's pretty nice, and also we have here nice and cool effects and animations. So if you like this video, then please thumbs up, comment below, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming tutorials. See you next time.